Before we kick off with the next lineup of really brilliant innovators, I want to ask you to join me in welcoming for our speech, for our guest speaker to introduce this section, the CEO of the change-making agency Futera. Please welcome to the stage, Lucy Shea.
Hello, are we on? Are we on? Yep, we should be on. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Thank you so much for the warm welcome, and I really am delighted to be here today. So I'm the CEO of Futera, and I am an entrepreneur working on climate and sustainability every day. Do we have the slides ready to go? I'm using the clicker, that's good. Thank you. Obviously, I'm well used to a presentation. Here we are. So I thought what I could bring today, I thought about a few things, my inspirational journey as an entrepreneur. And then I thought, you know what? I am a really busy working mum, CEO, entrepreneur. Life is too short. I'm going to try and bring something of use. So I hope what I bring is of use to you in honing your pitches and thinking about the solutions that you're selling. So Futera, change agency, we've got 20 years experience of basically selling sustainability. And whether that's developing public campaigns or working with our clients to hone their solutions, or you wouldn't believe the amount of pitch decks I've done to boards. We always say, if you're having to do pitch deck after, sell deck after sell deck after sell deck, you're onto a good thing. You're trying to persuade someone to do something that hasn't been done before. So I hope what I can bring is a little bit of that. But just before I go into that, this is what Futera believes and stands for even. I don't think we've got any audio.
That's a long word for short attention spans. Put simply, it's the human age. You human beings are having such an impact on the planet. You've
Talking about the Anthropocene
era named after you. The people who invented smartphones and spaceships and architecture and language, toilets, art, science, education and dancing and power and plastic and whatever that is, and dancing and deforestation, exclusion, pollution and poverty and climate change. The Anthropocene is us, all of us, a species whose DNA is made of mistakes and miracles. Sure, we made the problems, but we are the solution. And you're the answer, one of the dreamers and shapers, builders and makers, someone with the power to make the Anthropocene awesome. This is your future, so choose your own adventure. And remember folks, if you want to dodge an apocalypse, then you better aim for awesome.
So that's our mission, make the Anthropocene awesome. I'll tell you a little bit about what we do in a moment. That's our team, or at least some of our team, spread over the UK, and we've got offices in London, I'll go over here for a sec, London and New York, Mexico City. We work all over the world. We're also part of Race to Zero, UN Climate. We're the first professional services firm, so basically, we are a consultancy, but as a consultancy, we're the first professional services firm to get climate solutions provider status. And what that means is we do think about our operational footprint, but mainly we think about the work that we do, the strategies we write for our clients, the communications campaigns we put together, and that is where our material impact is. We are very fortunate to work with fantastic clients, but the first thing I want to bring to you is we're really in a pivot moment right now. I think the people in this room are probably more aware of that than most, but we are facing a crossroads at the moment between our traditional extractive and exploitative economy and the solutions economy. And again, the closer you are to working on climate and sustainability, often the more optimistic you are. But I spend a lot of time talking to a lot of people around the world who are thinking, oh, is it too late? And are the pathways to 1.5 degree changing? And that's because we planned climate action in a relatively linear way. It kind of makes sense. It thinks that's how change happens. Change does not happen in this way. So the first thing I kind of want to bring to you is if you're ever thinking, oh God, it's too late, and will my solution make enough of a difference? And can we actually get there to solutions economy? Yes, we can. These are various graphs of how social change happens, from adoption of new tech to adoption of equal rights marriage. And this hockey stick is prevalent through and through. And it kind of makes sense because as people, we don't really like change. We only have a limited attention span. We like things to stay the same. And we only, and that's why I say it's a pivot moment, change when it's become too difficult to continue on. So that first line, how we planned climate action, it's not going to happen that way. We're going to take a hockey stick moment up, and that's where we are right now. And so over to you guys. Obviously, this is all of our careers for the rest of our lives is moving from that extractive, exploitative economy to the solutions economy. So how are we going to do that? Well, I'll bring you, I'm going to canter really quickly over some of our work and get to some of the insights that we've had in this last 20 years of working on this. So we're fortunate enough to work with fantastic people like Google. We wrote their circular strategy, their carbon strategy. But even our deep technical work is based on insights and human insights. And the insight we found for Google was waste is a data problem. Actually, it's just waste being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So that insight then powered the circular strategy we put together for Google. Econil, a great solution in the fashion space, entrepreneurial story. It's not our pet, it's recycled polymers that are high grades, can go round and round and round. We worked with Econil on the positioning of that, which they say was their kind of jumping off point for the huge partnerships they brought in with Prada and others. And Formula One, one of my favourites. When we first got that gig, it was like, oh, really? Formula One? Can we? And for me, well, we took them net zero back in 2018, a commitment to be net zero by 2030. But for me, the big win here is not necessarily the footprint. The carbon footprint, when you look at Formula One, shows that engine, that Formula One engine that races round is 0.0001% of their carbon footprint. But it is 100% of the brain print, the entertainment spectacle, what brings new audience in. And so the work that I'm most proud of with Formula One is the work to bring in synthetic fuels, because the spillover effect of that, if you can do drop-in synthetic fuels to 1.5 billion road vehicles overnight, then that's the solutions economy. So the reason I say all this is that I want to bring you a little bit of that magic and logic, or that kind of behavioural perspective that we've learned over the years. And this is my family. Every entrepreneur should have their family story, of course. And I bring you this because this was a moment where the work that we've been doing around climate communication strategy for the UK government and on behaviour change really came real to me. So I used to spend all my summers going to Ireland as a kid. I hadn't been back for about 10 years in that kind of terrible teenage, like, Mum, I don't want to go to Ireland way. And in my early 20s, got tempted back. It was an aunt's 50th, and we all, gathered as the Shays. And there was this moment when my aunties who smoked, I was shocked because the impact on, basically the half of the family that didn't smoke looked in pretty good nick. The half of the family that did smoke were not so healthy. And I returned to the Futera office. I was a smoker at the time. And I suddenly realized that my Futera colleagues, they were saying some quite odd things to me. They're like, they were saying, you just never really struck me as a smoker. Or now that you've met Aldo, my then new boyfriend, do you think you'll continue smoking? Or other things. And I gave up smoking. And I realized what had happened to me. For those that know, and it was the insights the Futerra team were giving to me were all from this evidence base we pulled together about how to change hearts and minds on climate change. That they'd knocked up some big behavioural kind of bats on me. Transition zones when I was meeting a new boyfriend, going into potentially a new part of my life. Social proof, no one else in Futerra is smoking. Symbolic self-completion, that you don't look like a smoker. And salience, those smoking aunties with the salience, what would happen to my skin. I'd like to reassure you, we all gave up in my family after this. It wasn't just me. So why I bring this to you is that this thinking about how we're going to sell our solutions is critical. And we know that folks are interested. So if you look around, Google Trends, for example, shows that people are searching on how to live a sustainable lifestyle. The Google Trends analysis or data shows that these searches are up 4,550%. And I love search data because it's kind of what I consider to be the real data rather than necessarily the surveys where we always slightly overstate how good we are or what we're doing. So that's good. And as some stats from my colleague's book, How to Be a Solutionist by Solitaire Townsend, our co-founder. Hope is a business plan. In all of these areas of climate innovation, there is an enormous potential business model and price tag to be won. But, and obviously this is where your innovations come in, how do we sell these solutions? So I'll bring you I think I've got about 5 minutes left. I'll bring you, in the last 5 minutes, a couple of core insights, which I hope will be of use for you as you hone your solutions and pitch them as you ongoing. So first of all, everyone talks about the values action gap, and you're going to hear that as you pitch your solutions into business. Oh, but our consumer's going to buy this, and will they pay more? No, they're not going to pay more. They were never going to pay more, but they will buy it if we realise that this values action gap is actually a barrier. And what can smash through this barrier, or what this barrier is composed of, is a ton of different barriers. So the ultimate purchaser of these solutions or these inventions is going to be worried about, can she afford it? Can she find it? Does she believe you? Is it really better? Is it normal? Does it call to her? So we have all these different behavioral and psychological barriers around desire, preference, shame, trust, etc. And it's almost as if, and I've been doing this for 20 years, the marketeers who are selling these solutions kind of forget this bit when it comes to the sustainability solutions. And we've got to smash through these barriers with benefits. And we wrote some guidance on this some time ago, all available on the website, looking at how barriers can only be busted by benefits. So thinking about, in that kind of end product or end solution, what is the functional, emotional, and social benefit? And there could be a few. Now, I don't have much time, so I'm going to flip through this quite quickly, but all of this is on our website. We freely gift away the IP on this, so please download it, use it. Functional benefits, as they sound, are the type of things around value for money, performance, efficiency, safety, quality. Here is one.
These are amazing for travel. These are amazing for travel. They blend.
Hang on.
These are amazing for travel. Really easy to top up.
That's not gonna work. Okay, that was basically about a new sustainable refill thing and how good they are for travel, for example. You've all seen the Levi's messaging, buy a pair of jeans, wash it less, wear it longer. That's the type of functional benefit. Could save you money, energy use, etc. Not always thought about are emotional benefits. So sensory pleasure, self-worth, big one for the psychology around climate change. Happiness, personalization, excitement. So here, let's see if this one will work.
All right, do your worst.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, shit. Oh my God, that is insane.
And that's 100
and something, 100 and a lot. So
that's the Tesla test drive, the kind of, 0 to 60 in a couple of seconds. And it the evidence base now shows one of your best ways of getting someone to buy an EV is to get them to test drive an EV. Social benefits, different to emotional. This is how something is going to make you look in the eyes of others. So can it give, virtue signaling? Can it prove an identity? Can it make you look desirable? Could it improve family bonding? These are the types of social benefits. This, outside of climate, but is still within sustainability, is the Dove Turn Your Back campaign, going against the TikTok filters, which are all about, perfection and looking glorious, and just saying, we don't agree with that. Our identity is people as we are, basically. All right, so what I would suggest is, as you're honing your pictures, thinking about your solutions, have a think about the various different barriers that ultimately must be crossed. And even with your, who you're selling into, your businesses, what are the barriers you're going to have to bash through, and what are the benefits you can think about, functional, emotional, or social, that your innovation can bring. But the final piece I want to leave you with is that benefits are not enough. Oftentimes, what we're selling now requires a behavioural approach. We're not just selling benefits, we're changing behaviours. And if we look around, so IPCC has done this wonderfully for us. They've delineated the top 61 behaviours that as individuals we should be focusing on in order to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions. From one less flight, there's going to be a ton here that you guys are working on. Vegan diet, less packaging, reduced materials in the production phase, plastics, bioplastics, etc. So this is a really good evidence base we're using at the moment with our corporate clients. But actually, what we're going to need is to take a benefits and behaviours approach. And again, we've got some guidance on this. I won't go through all of it. We've boiled down the kind of behavioural, psychological evidence base into what businesses and brands can do to help their consumers change their behaviours, change their lifestyles, from showcasing to normalising to just asking for what you want. So that again is on the Futera, wearefutera.com website. But the thing I'd love to leave you with, and the thing that I think is a game changer in 20 years of working with this, is the behaviour superpower of influencers and creators. And this is an area that we're really building out at Futera at the moment. So again, for your ultimate consumer, your customer, and thinking about how they're going to market this, or even yourselves, forget traditional advertising. I mean, it's totally useless at changing behavior or selling these new sustainability messages, and think about a more creator or influencer-led approach. Recent stats by Unilever, our partner, show just how high the stats are on folks looking to creators and influencers for advice on sustainability and advice on sustainable lifestyles. 83% of consumers think TikTok and Instagram are good places to get advice about how to live sustainably. This is not a normal message out here at the moment. This is something which is new, and as I say, we're pretty excited about. And follow-up research that we've done with Ipsos and Unilever, as we're working around a consortium around creators and sustainable lifestyles, show that creators also think that sustainability is important. They want access to briefs on this. If they're going to move their business model from just selling, business as usual, any old product, they need the sustainability products and solutions to sell. And they want access to the science. They want access to good quality, non-greenwash products and data. And again, I'll skip through this. There's not much time, but it's kind of, in some ways, it's no surprise that these creators and influencers do so well at this, because they open up, they bring us into their homes and their families' lives. They're more like talking to a friend. And we know that people trust people when it comes to sustainability and sustainable lifestyles. So I'll flick through these. They weave in sustainability, they banish myths, they normalize new behaviors. They really raise the status. And that is one of the big things that we're battling here, the low status and low desirability of sustainability solutions. So Depop and some of their high status things. And you may not be a fan, but I'm just going to leave you with this one piece.
I believe so much in the mission of Beyond Meat that I've stepped in to help with my greatest asset, my taste. This plant-based meat is not only amazingly delicious, but it's also better for you and better for the planet. It's a simple change that makes a really big difference. So good. And now Now that I'm Beyond Meat's chief taste consultant, there's never been a better time to go beyond.
So if you're thinking, oh, that's great, because the audiences we need to reach are not the ones who are in the folks that we talk to every day, and they're not even the audiences within the sustainability influencers. They're Kim Kardashian's followers, and there are wider, it's where we need to build our durable majority who are going to buy this stuff and vote for this stuff and change their lives in line with this stuff. So here's our sustainability success formula. You got to think about your benefits, the behaviors you try and change, bringing the creators, and you got to pay them, the creator community, and that should be a successful way of selling your climate solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Some really wise words there. We move on to the next round of startups now. And for this session, our focus is on food and nature-based solutions. And to kick us off, please put your hands together for Dan from Radiant Foods.
I come from a rural place in the southwest of China. Most of my childhood memories relate to very good food. I still remember how delicious the Chinese pork belly my grandma used to cook. It's so crispy outside, soft and juicy inside. That's how I grew up. Until 2018, when I came to the UK, I realized my diet has a huge impact on animals' well-being and our planet. Animal agriculture contributes to 18% of global carbon emissions, which is more than all the modes of transport combined. I decided to make a change, starting with myself. I turned to plant-based. Coming from a heavy meat-eating culture, it was very challenging. If I don't eat meat, what else should I eat? So I tried many meat alternatives on the market, but the texture was soggy, taste bland. The content alone of the ultra-processed ingredients made me feel unhealthy and bloated. This problem also shared by half of Britons who want to cut down meat consumption, but find it very difficult due to lack of better alternatives. So we decided to create a better one. That's how Radiant Foods was born. Radiant Foods is a food tech startup. Starting from the lab, we spent 13 months developing new technology and formulation. Our product contains only 3 natural ingredients. With them, we're able to create a muscle-like meaty texture and umami flavor people enjoy. This year, we achieved the highest number of Great Taste Awards in plant-based meat section in the UK. We sell to premium supermarkets and health stores now. Customers can also purchase directly from our website, many through subscriptions. I am a self-taught food scientist. My partner Satya is a self-taught programmer. We met at the college during our masters. Both of us have experience in fundraising and building startups. In the last 2 years, we have served 20,000 customers and launching 15 premium supermarkets, including Selfridges. Received over 60,000 grant funding. Our online sales has 80% of retention rate. In total, we achieved over 50,000 revenue with zero spend on marketing. We produce a ton of plant-based meat. What that means? The amount of drinking water we saved could supply to 12,000 people per year. The amount of carbon emission we reduced is equal to a person's driving time for 15 years. The arable land we saved is equal to the size of Mayfair. In the next 12 months, we plan to expand over 17 premium supermarkets. Recently, Whole Foods approached us actively, and tomorrow we're going to have a launch meeting with Planet Organic. In the next 3 years, we plan to launching national retailers. This will lead to a 10 million revenue but also 400 times social and environmental impact. Our ultimate vision is to replace meat with plants, replace cruelty with compassion, replace pandemic with global health, replace climate change with sustainable lifestyles. We aim to create meat for modern humans. To realize this vision, we're looking for investors and advisors. If you have a 10 years vision like us, please come to talk with me. Thank you.
Dan, well done, and welcome to your other team member. Time for questions now, and again, please use menti.com, and details of which will be on the screen very shortly. There we go. For a first question, tell us what's different about you compared to other products that are out there in the market.
So we have our own production and technology that we have in-house that gives us completely different meaty-like texture that Dan showed before, while only being able to do with 3 simple ingredients.
I think another key difference is because I think it's always come from the founder's vision. So we are very health-conscious people, and we're looking to reshape the industry in a more healthy direction, but also people could enjoy the food. That's all reflecting on the packaging. For example, the whole packaging was using with compostable packaging. Is really down to the value we stand. Yeah.
One of the questions asked is whether you could discuss, please, the nutritional values of the product.
Yeah, sure. So for 100 grams, they have about 22 grams of protein, which is compatible with chicken breast. We also have high in omega-3s, which you can't find in meat, so you can only find in fish, which is something we can do something as meat for modern humans. We also have source of fiber. Again, you can't find that in meat. And the remaining values are very similar to chicken breast.
Another question asks, what's the shelf life of the product?
So it's about 6 months from since we produce. When you go to retail shop, you can get up to 2 months or 3 months, depending on which retail you get at, but 6 months from our end.
And do you own your entire supply chain? How do you ensure sustainability and reduced emissions across the entire supply chain?
So we don't own the entire supply chain. We do whatever we can from our side. So we focus mostly on the end manufacturing, production, formulation, but we do get help, or we do source from other partners in the supply chain. And regarding the second question, how do you ensure sustainability? I mean, we can only control our side of supply chains for now, given our scale, but we do hope that we can work in the future when we have more leverage, we can work with partners who share the same vision in terms of reducing the overall supply chain impact.
What would your grandmother think about Radiant Foods? One member of the audience asks.
My grandma actually don't know what I'm doing. She does just know I'm working in the factory because my grandmother is 100 years old. But when we had a call, I'm telling her the reason I don't eat meat, and she said, I want to quit meat. So she gave me a lot of hope. Even 100 years old could make a change.
So we can guess that she's a fan. Where is production? Is distribution only in the UK? Asks one audience member.
So our production is in a small factory in North London. The distribution is mostly in the UK, that's correct, because we want to make sure we're focused. And we only sell in London through retail, but online is throughout the UK. So focus is our key.
Do you have any plans to use more variety of vegetables in new products?
So we use beans, which you can count as vegetables. So I'm just going to reframe the question to you. Do you have more variety of beans you'd like to use in the future? And the answer is yes. But again, that depends on the cost of commodities, because you can use any different kinds of beans, but ultimately the price is very important for the end customer. And that's something we should be aware of in deciding which beans we choose.
And how does your product compare on cost versus both other plant-based products and meat alternatives?
So regarding cost, we focus mostly on the higher end. So we focus much more on health. So it is much more expensive than, let's say, the ones you find in Sainsbury's or Tesco's. Again, that's because of what Dan mentioned. It's our vision. We don't want to compromise on our health, and we hope to scale it through that. And the second part, what's the second part?
I think it's about, price is all about scalability. So the reason why we do this is also because we know that it's more efficient. We eat plants directly instead of eating chicken, and then chicken eat plants. So 1 kilo of, 1 kilo of soybeans, 1 kilo of chicken is equal to 3.5 of soybeans, right? Which means when they provide the similar value, nutrition value, and similar calorie, so it would be much cheaper and more efficient if we eat beans directly. So that's all the reason we do, and there's no reason that why beans cannot be not cheaper than meat. So in the future, we expected that plant-based meat would be much more cheaper than meat.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That brings us to time. Well done. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, that brings us on to our next innovator, and please put your hands together to welcome Polly, representing Aloe Mundus.
Hi everyone. Sorry. So Aloe Mundus means sustain humanity. We're a technology platform that connects businesses with urban sustainability initiatives. Through our platform, businesses can generate localized and tangible environmental and social impact and engage their stakeholders, whether they are customers or employees. Through our conversations with businesses, we've actually discovered that there are 3 objectives for them incorporating corporate and social responsibility. One of them is winning new business, whether that's bids for public sector or just getting a corporate contract. The second is talent retention and actually generating talent. And the third is the customer engagement and also employee engagement. Now, the problem is that a lot of these environmental initiatives happen in remote area. And oftentimes they're in far-flung places like conserving the Brazilian rainforest or planting mangroves in tropics. A lot of places that customers and employees never go and see. So what we're actually doing is that we're actually investing in our sort of local solutions in local areas where customers and employees are. So sorry, I have slides. So I'm just, there you go. So we're solving that problem by creating a platform solutions where a business can go and find these bespoke businesses and invest in any given amount. And after the investment, they can actually generate updated project updates and also engagement to their employees and customers. And there'll be volunteering opportunities for businesses where they can actually go and send their employees and potentially customers. So we've been piloting with Lambeth councils and their curbside strategy. That's an award-winning strategy that they're implementing for multi-year. And we're going to be looking to scale with different local authorities in London and Southeast. And our revenue model is quite simple. It's a simple commission and subscription model. And we'll be charging 20% commission to businesses and subsequent model for sort of subscription. And so the team has domain knowledge. So I've had 17 years of investment banking and financial services experience. And my head of product, Paul, is an executive founder with SaaS business, and he served the likes of Unilever and Nestle. So thank you for your time. And if you are interested in investing in your local communities and local area, please come and speak to us.
Well done, Polly. Thank you very much indeed. And time now for your questions again. So please do use the QR code that you'll see on the screen to get those in. Starting, Polly, with one about your competitors. Who are your competitors?
So we don't really have direct competitors because a lot of them actually have these projects in a lot of different locations, not necessarily in the urban areas. So I guess our indirect competitors are those people who are selling carbon offsets or carbon credits in those locations, or some of the NGOs who are doing these similar initiatives like tree plantings in the cities.
Okay, do we have any further questions? Yes, we do. Somebody asks, could these be used as volunteer opportunities for corporate volunteer days?
Absolutely, yes. That's one of the things that we actually offer in terms of teen engagement for a lot of corporates.
Okay, can you explain how you intend to generate income?
So like I said, we charge commissions for funds that we raise for particular projects. And then there'll be an opportunity for a subscription fee to maintain these projects after it's been implemented.
Okay, and any further questions? Yes, we have one about your limitation to scale, what those are, and access to initiatives and access to buyers.
So I think from a scalability perspective, there's a lot of opportunities in the UK for a lot of cities and towns. And also this could be a global initiative because we see a lot of the sort of climate disasters in various other cities in Europe and America and Australia, flood, fire, drought, etc. So this can be easily sort of implemented.
Brilliant. Okay. Do you do due diligence on the projects? One audience member asks.
Yes, so it's actually, so what we do is we do what's called ground truthing, so which is that you actually go and monitor the project, taking pictures, and there'll be a geotag onto our database, and so we can actually see the progress of these projects.
Brilliant. And one audience member asks, is there any link to voluntary carbon market or in the future, perhaps?
No, because we're not selling carbon credits because we don't have the scale. This is going to be happening in urban areas where there's a limited land availability. So what we're focusing on is actually things that matter to cities and towns. So flooding, for example, so we have rain gardens to stop that, sort of green spaces for people to enjoy, pocket parks, so for people to actually have sort of a social gathering, etc.
Brilliant. Any further questions? I think that brings us to time. No, we have one more. Do you have any plans to explore BTC to enable average people to own parts of their local initiatives and potentially profit from part ownership, for example, localized solar panel farms?
We are just focusing on nature-based solutions at the moment, so that's not something that we potentially later on, but not right now.
Brilliant. Okay, that brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed. Many thanks to Polly there. Moving on, please welcome with our next pitch from Acer Farms. Please put your hands together for Leo.
We all rely on agricultural supply chains that are not only the second largest source of climate change, but which are at increasing risk of simply breaking. I'm Leo, I'm the founder of Acer Farms, and we're solving these problems with warehouse-style vertical farms that will grow 3 to 4 tons of fresh fruits and vegetables every day, starting with leafy greens. Now, you might be aware that vertical farming has been through its very own hype cycle in the past few years. So there's one thing that I'll ask you to take away from today's talk, is that our farms are not only hundreds of times more productive than outdoor growing, they're also multiple times more productive than the current generation of vertical farms. The story I want to tell you today is how we're delivering it. We're domain experts. We bring years of experience to the start line at Acer. Most of that was developed in Japan, where we've helped deliver 2 large-scale farms. The first is delivering 3 tons of leafy per day. The second is delivering 4 tons of leafy. Now, our experience gives us a very different perspective on the drivers of productivity and the technologies that we need. The industry tends to focus on the cultivation recipe, understanding what light, what temperature, and what plant nutrition. But these are all really important, and we're working with some of the best plant scientists. But it's not the bottleneck to productivity. Rather, it's the way that you deliver that cultivation recipe that's the most important thing. The reason is that the cultivation process does not scale effectively. Most important, and the foundation for our IP, is the ability to precisely control the cultivation environment. It becomes exponentially more difficult to control the temperature, humidity, and CO2 as the volume of the farm grows. This is an example of the temperature control that's possible with the current generation of technologies, and it is simply not precise enough. So we've won a grant from the Green Futures Investment Fund to work with the environmental control engineers at the consultancy Max Fordham, And we've developed a digital proof of concept that demonstrates with millions of data points that we can control the environment at the plant canopy across a very large farm. This is the key that unlocks significantly higher productivity. First, it enables us to significantly increase capital efficiency by maximizing production density. Precision environmental control enables us to minimize the space between the plant and the light, meaning that our farms can be considerably smaller and cheaper to deliver. The design of our baby leaf farm has twice the number of rack layers compared to the current generation of farms. And the increase in productivity goes up as we grow larger plant varieties. We're also developing the robotics that we need to move plants around as they pass through our process, meaning that we can maximize density both laterally and horizontally as well. Secondly, precision environmental control enables us to minimize what most people think is the most significant operating expense in a vertical farm, energy. We can use temperature and humidity to drive plant growth, lowering our dependence on more energy-intensive lighting. We expect this to be able to increase productivity by at least another 40%. We're also working hard to make sure that we have access to the lowest priced energy. We're working with partners on sites where we can have our own on-site solar, on-site battery storage, and we're confident we can take our overall net cost so we can use that solar and storage to arbitrage peak and off-peak pricing on the grid, take our overall net cost for energy to nearly zero. So what do we need? Well, next, we're going to build a full digital twin of our first commercial farm and a small pilot. We've got great quality partners. We're working with the plant scientists at the University of Essex, the engineers at Max Fordham, and the AI experts at Pacific X. So if you're a retailer or a food processor, we'd love to have you on board. You'll get to understand how we deliver such high productivity and make sure that we're delivering for your specific requirements around things like product hygiene. Let me leave you with this. We've solved the equation for mass market vertical farming. High capital efficiency, low operating expenses. This is how we deliver the scale and the price point that national retailers need to be part of the climate solution. Thanks very much.
Yeah, well done. And over to the audience for questions now. And in just a moment, you'll see the QR code on the screen, and you can use that to get those questions in. Leo, starting with one about the limitations, if there are any, on what you can grow in a vertical farm.
Sure. Well, I'm sure you've all been to Kew Gardens. You know, you can grow most things, but it's really about what you can grow economically. So yeah, we're focused on the highest volume, highest value parts of the market. So leafy greens, baby leaf bag salad for a supermarket, or cut iceberg for fast food, which is a huge market. McDonald's UK is probably between 15 and 20 tons every day. So huge volumes.
We have a question in. How does it compare against outdoor farming in net return, considering higher productivity, but also possibly higher costs from facilities and from tech?
Well, yeah, obviously outdoor farming can be a pretty low return industry. I mean, obviously we think we can deliver an attractive return for our investors. We have to, if you think about it, if you want to produce a washed bag of salad, you need a big building in which to do the washing. Well, we're doing the growing and the packing in a building of the same type. So we have to make sure that we can take care of the energy piece, which we can, both by minimizing the amount that we need and then making sure that we're getting it for the lowest price, hopefully covering its cost, as I described. And then downstream, just making sure we run the farm really well.
What's your water dependency?
It's tiny. It's a few % of outdoor farming. If you think about how you have to irrigate a field, most of it does not end up in the plant. So 1-2%.
Where is the plan for the location for the next farm? Asks one audience member, and why?
So we're still location agnostic. In the UK, we would position to optimize for energy. So the build out to net zero is creating pockets of very, very cheap energy. So one way of thinking about it is that our farms are turning that energy into food. So we're sort of a battery in some sense. We're storing that energy as food. So yeah, we'd look to, there are some, I can't tell you where they are because it's trade secret, but there are some specific locations where we could do that. Obviously, as we look around the world, there's great markets in America. 90% of US fruit and veg grown in California. Everything eaten on the East Coast has traveled thousands of miles. Middle East, these are all obvious options.
And no doubt if you have more questions, you'll be available for answers later on. Does vertical farming also have a future in developing countries and rural areas to safeguard as much arable land and nature ecosystems as possible?
I mean, it's still pretty capital intensive, and so the price point that we want to deliver a high quality product into a probably developed market consumer, it's hundreds of times more productive per acre. So wherever you have land pressure, there's likely to be some opportunity.
Do you use artificial lighting for growing your vegetables?
Absolutely, yeah. Our farms look like any other warehouse, so no glass, all grown under LEDs. Now, the caveat to that is that we are starting to explore some options to try and use fiber optics to bring natural light into the farm, but we would prioritize control of the environment.
Okay, and another question asks, can you license your technology, or will you have to build and operate your own farms?
So
Can you license your technology?
Great question, thank you. Yes, we can license our technology, but I think the industry has been disappointed by the performance so far, and so we expect to need to build and operate our first farm ourselves, and then moving to a licensing model once partners are comfortable with what they can deliver.
Do vertical farms use fertilizers and herbicides? Somebody asks.
No, that's a huge advantage. So zero pesticides, we do use fertilizer, but zero pesticides. Basically, it's a physical protection of the crop, so no need.
Brilliant. That brings us to time. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much indeed to Leo from Acer Farms. And up next, representing Team Wave X, please give a very warm welcome to Clement.
Yes. Hi, I'm Clement, and I'm thrilled to be here to tell you about WaveX. At WaveX, we harness waves to generate electricity and restore beaches. Coastlines are the last place on Earth that we humans can't harness. They are fluid areas shaped by nature, and so far we have tried to work there against nature, and we have failed. Why is that? Because we're used to working with rigid structures, and in a fluid environment, rigid structures don't do well. They either get damaged by storms or damage the environment, when nature uses a much softer approach. In nature, the seabed gently changes what happens to waves, absorbing, redirecting, or reflecting their energy. And that's actually all we need to do if we want to generate electricity out of waves or protect our coastlines from erosion. So let me walk you through how we can modify the seabed to protect the coast and generate electricity. First, we can raise sandbars by inflating flexible structures under the seabed. This will absorb energy from the wave and reduce erosion. And we can do even better. In July, we have demonstrated that waves can quickly transport sandbars onshore. All we have to do is raise the sandbar in the right location. We are thrilled about this result because it's never been done before, and it's much better to use waves rather than trucks or dredges to replenish beaches. It's affordable, it's sustainable, and much more eco-friendly. Now, the other major thing we can do, all with the same technology, is convert wave energy to electricity. We use pressure variations on our air-inflated bags, forcing air through a turbine that generates electricity. As our devices are placed close to the seabed, no, they are placed under the seabed, they can operate close to the waves and yet avoid the destructive power of storms. And this is interesting because this is what has been the main challenge for wave energy converters so far. In August, we successfully tested our wave energy prototypes in the fantastic wave tanks of Imperial College. We have reproduced results previously shown by several startups and universities, but with our devices that are 50 times lighter and 5 times cheaper. The result is that we can produce electricity for only 4 pence per kilowatt hour. This is cheaper than what we currently pay for fossil fuel energy, and we will help save over 200 million tons of CO2 annually at scale. Our team met through a shared passion for coastal environments and oceans. Together, we have the experience, we have 10 years of experience in the energy sector and the experience of creating several successful startups. So far, our many field and lab tests have taught us how to operate our devices under the seabed. This has allowed us to file 2 patent applications, to join the leading climate tech incubators in England, Scotland, and France, and win 2 prestigious climate tech startup competitions in Europe and the UK. Now, with what we learned this summer, we're going to work with several leading institutions in the UK and in France to deploy our operational prototypes on beaches. So why waste time fighting erosions when all we have to do is work with them? We're currently seeking private funding and a commercial co-founder. With your help, we can make this happen one wave at a time. Thank you. And here is Olivier, my co-founder.
Thank you very much indeed, and welcome to the part of the section where we talk about questions, where we take your questions. So please do get them in using the QR code on the screen, as you're used to doing. And we have a first question in about the size of your market and where you hope to deploy your systems.
Yeah, thank you, Rhea. Devices can be deployed where there are waves and the proper type of sediments and the proper type of bathymetry. That's around 20,000 kilometers over the world. And that opens a market of around 20 billion pounds per year.
Brilliant. How do you install your flexible structures under the seabed?
So I don't know if you've ever seen a stargazer fish. They're big, bulky, ugly fish. And in order to hunt, they bury themselves under the sand, and they do 2 things. They inject water under themselves and they wiggle. And we can do the same with our flexible structure. So there is no need for excavation and no need for foundation. And we've prototyped that up to 4 square meters on the beach. We just sink them under the sand and we can adjust how deeply they're buried under the sand.
We've had a question about whether this can be deployed in rivers.
Not really. We do need waves.
Okay. How deep do the bags need to be?
Typically a couple of meters under the sand.
And any further questions? We've already answered that one. Let me see. We have another question in about how you install, and you've answered that. Who can help give access to the coastal real estate that you need in order to install this?
Depending on which country. In the UK, we need authorizations from 6 administrations. Including Natural England, the Environment Agency, the Crown Estate in most places, Marine Management Organization, and a couple others.
Okay, another question in asks, are there not concerns about the existing ecosystems where you plan on installing your tech?
Oops, really?
The impact it will have on existing ecosystems?
Oh, yeah, thank you very much. Actually, we've asked a dozen marine biologists, and our approach is much gentler than, for example, wind turbines, which are already fine in most places, because we work in places which are already swept by waves, so it's not a very friendly place for fish. And past the first 10 centimeters, there is very little marine life. And as compared to a storm, which really steers everything, we are gently sink our stuff under the sand. So it's actually quite gentle, and we couldn't find much drawback so far.
Brilliant. How will you start generating income?
So in a few years' time, by selling electricity to the power grid, and to begin with, we'll be selling cubic meters of sand to councils currently they buy sand that's being brought by trucks and dredges and barges, and we'll do the same, except the sand will be brought by waves and tides.
Brilliant. Somebody says, great pitch. Do you have any idea of installation and maintenance costs yet?
Yes, we do have quite precise ideas. The devices themselves are quite cheap. So it's mainly about maintenance and installation. But because the devices are very light, like 50 times lighter than equivalent devices, they're easy to carry around and to store and to manufacture. So it's mostly about getting the installation process right. And there'll be a bit of trial and error about that, but in the end, it shouldn't be very costly either.
We have a question about the maximum and minimum capacity of each unit.
So no minimum. Currently, we are answering a call by Wave Energy Scotland to use new electroactive material. It's type of material that directly generates electricity when you press on it or when you stretch it. And this can be used, for example, to power sensors offshore for scientists. And maximum, you just multiply the number of units. Typically, with 100 square meters of active flexible material can generate about 1.5 megawatt of electricity, the same amount of a small turbine.
Brilliant. WaveX team, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us on to the last pitch in this section. Please welcome the co-founders of Wonky Collective, Dina and Alina.
40% of food that's produced never even makes it to a supermarket shelf and gets lost along the supply chain. When thinking food waste, we often think about all of that waste you see at a supermarket shelf with yellow stickers and fresh produce. But did you know there's actually 10 times more food waste at a manufacturing level versus at retail? And this costs manufacturers £7.6 billion every single year in the UK. Now, I've seen this waste firsthand, having spent the last 10 years working in the food and drinks manufacturing industry. Much of it comes from surplus ingredients, such as oils, frozen fruit and veg, flours and spices. It's perfectly good stuff. It has long shelf lives, but it sadly just is no longer needed by the manufacturer. So their easiest option is to pay to get it disposed of. But what if it was as easy to sell as it is currently to throw away?
This is where we come in. I'm Alina, this is Dini, and we're the co-founders of the Wonky Collective, the first B2B technology to enable food manufacturers to track and sell surplus ingredients easily. The core of our technology is our matchmaking algorithm. Think Tinder for surplus ingredients. We connect food manufacturers with the best potential buyers for each surplus ingredient that they have. And our matchmaking algorithm is built with AI and it's powered by the huge database that we've been building, mapping 4,500 UK food businesses, which is roughly 25% of the total, as well as all major ingredients used in UK food production, around 8,000. But how does it work in practice? One of our clients, a bread manufacturer, has 500 tons of surplus flour because of one of these regular forecasting changes. Today, it would just be impossible for him to find someone who needs that flour, so they just pay to get rid of it and go to landfill. Now that we exist, we connect them to a biscuit manufacturer that needs that flour for their next production round. The match is based on the location, on the ingredients, on the accreditation, and the volume of food that both manufacturers use. And they both win from this transaction. The bread manufacturer creates extra revenue, and the biscuit manufacturer gets the flour for cheaper. And they also both reduce food waste and improve their carbon footprint. In addition, we're building a lot of back-end and automation tools to really simplify the entire process for food manufacturers. Surplus identification, ESG reporting, payments, food documentation, and logistics being the major ones.
Using our network, and our first mover advantage, we've already built relationships with over 50 UK food manufacturers, including Nestlé and Greencore. We have £100,000 worth of stock listed on our platform, and we've closed our first transactions. We're generating revenue through commissions, and we've got a roadmap to a recurring revenue SaaS model when our technology is at full scale. We're also in conversations with Tesco about licensing our technology to them to support their 2,000-strong supplier base. At scale, our technology can help stop 2.4 million tons of greenhouse gases that are unnecessarily emitted every year. And according to McKinsey research, stopping food waste could also help food manufacturers to reduce their cost of goods by up to 10%. We're soon to be opening our pre-seed round in order to scale our business. As the Tesco director for food waste strategy told us, we are ahead of the curve with our thinking and really understand the market. We are now looking for angels and for climate tech VCs in order to speak to and to join our journey. Could this be you?
Well done. Thank you very much indeed. And time now for your questions. Do scan the QR code on the screen behind us. And starting with one about where the waste occurs within your supply chain.
Yeah, go for it. So the waste that we tackle is ingredients. And I guess the reason why it occurs is because manufacturers operate so far ahead. So if you're talking about a product on a shelf, a manufacturer would have had to buy those ingredients a year and a half before it actually reaches the shelf. So there are so many reasons why there are surplus ingredients, and that's why we're focusing on that area. And they also have huge minimum order quantities that they need to hit. So that's another big reason for the reason why there's surplus. And at the end of the day, they have to deal with all of the pressures from retailers, from us fickle consumers changing our minds and ordering patterns, which all has a knock-on effect to the supply chain.
We've had a question in about who sets the price for the surplus goods. Is there quality assurance put in place?
So in terms of the price, as you can imagine, food have an expiry date. And until you get some shelf life, the ingredients maintain their value. And then at some point, they reach a level where the price just significantly drops. We've been modeling the price of surplus ingredients as they get higher to that, closer to the best before date. And so the price is currently set by the buyer and the seller. They discuss it, but we, with our pricing tool that we're building, help us give an indication of what is the right price for that surplus ingredient based on the end of life. In terms of the quality assurance, yes, food is a highly regulated industry. I used to be a dispute lawyer, so I've looked into especially the quality problem and what can come out of that. The bottom line is that in most cases, you can draw it back to either the buyer or the seller doing something wrong. And we also have insurance for covering these cases where neither did anything wrong and we can't find responsibility.
Another question asks, how have you collected data so far and how would that change as more firms use your service?
So we've currently collected data in two ways. First, there's some accessible information in terms of scraping the documents and knowing which manufacturer uses what ingredients because of the list of ingredients that you have in all food products that you buy. Then we've scraped other databases in terms of the food manufacturers. And then by accessing ERP through APIs that we're building with our partner manufacturers, we can see what surplus ingredients they have throughout their supply chain and also see what ingredients they use. So the more food manufacturers we have on board, the better the data we have and that we collect, but also the better the matchmaking.
Do we have any further questions? How do you compare to any of your competitors out there?
Well, we actually see one of our competitors as waste management companies because they're currently being paid to dispose of lots of this perfectly good surplus. But when it comes to tech, there are some other businesses. So in the US, there's a company called Spoiler Alert, who's just raised 12 million, and they focus on ingredients, but they locate them in supply chains in a similar way to how we're operating. There's also Tesco, who have the Tesco Exchange, which they launched at the start of this year. And they've got a lot of traction through their suppliers signing up to try and work out what to do with their extra surplus that they're not using. However, they're finding it hard to create the transactions because they don't have any of the matchmaking algorithms that we're using in order to intelligently matchmake buyers and sellers. So they require a certain time. You need to need the product at exactly the same time as it's listed. And obviously that's where our intelligent matchmaking comes in, which is why they're interested in working with us to license our technology.
How many tons of food waste do you plan to save per year?
Well, as many as possible. As you all know, different types of food waste also have different impact on the environment. So some emit methane, some emit more CO2. We've currently saved 200 tons, which in the last couple of months, and we're looking to save more and more going forward.
I think that brings us to time. Do we have time for any further questions? No, that's time. Thank you very much indeed. Well done. A huge thank you to our second group of startups for another brilliant round of pitches. Once again, I'll now ask you just to take a few moments to score each of the teams that you've seen using the screen behind me, the QR code behind me. That's menti.com, and just enter the code 1405127 to give your scores. You might need to just refresh your browser page if you're having any problems with that, and then click the next button. That code again, 1405127. That brings us on to time for another break before our final round of pitches starts in 15 minutes' time. We ask that you're back in the lecture theatre ready for that by 4:05. Refreshments again will be served in the room just outside the lecture theatre where you were before. And again, a reminder, no food or drink to be brought back into the lecture theatre, please. Bathrooms on the ground floor, and a final reminder, if you haven't already, do check out the museum on the lower ground floor. That's if you didn't get a chance last time. And you can also speak to all the startups who will be spread out across tables in both rooms. Final point, if you are late returning to the lecture theatre, please take the main staircase up to the second floor and you'll find a seat on the upper theatre gallery to minimise disruption to the event. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll see you back here in 15 minutes.